Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Funk. I'm Leon Thomas. With me, as always, is Johnny Maloney and Austin, who might be a Frankenstein.
Might be?
Is that? I just want to make sure here. Are we talking layman's Frankenstein, or are we talking actually guys Frankenstein?
We're not actuallying anything.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not.
Now, Austin,
how are you feeling?
You did hear that the dark movie universe is on hold right now, right? Like that's
the dark movie. That's what they call it. It's the that whole thing has been a disaster, huh? I'm just gonna ignore the whole accusations of being a Frankenstein and talk about that Tom Cruise movie.
No, I mean, I'm just wondering why now? Because it seems to me like the glory days of Frankenstein, are maybe over, or at least delayed. So
Yeah.
if that was your plan to get out of law school because you were gonna jump right into the Universal movie monster cinematic universe, not a good time.
Speaking of ethically questionable doctors, I was actually talking yesterday to my brother about what would happen if I just finished law school and then I just immediately applied to medical school. At some point, would anyone I care about stop me? Does anybody have the fortitude to intervene?
I can't physically stop you from here, but I would advise against it. Just because, at some point, you need to use one of your degrees instead of just accumulating them and being tired.
Do I, though?
I feel like otherwise, Austin, you're just a drain on society.
Good.
As the jerks like to say. You either have to contribute or you're worthless scum.
I am under society right now, and I'm just reaching up and I'm grabbing onto those udders and I'm yanking down as hard as possible. I'm trying to give society stretch marks.
I would just be worried for your debt.
Douse me in your creamy society juice, please. I'm very tired.
You can't make someone pay anything if they die of exhaustion.
I don't know. I just feel like one of my main goals in life is just to learn as much as possible, and
Cool.
one of my least valued possible things to be doing with my time is to be generating income. So
Right.
if I could just get all the degrees, I think at some point someone would have to say well, look, he knows everything. We should just leave him alone. He's very smart.
Right.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Dang.
Yeah, also, if you know everything, then, ethically, you should put it to good use instead of just, getting more and hoarding all the knowledge for yourself.
But what if I use my medical and my law degree to create some sort of flesh golem out of Republicans, and then I use that new monster to hunt down all the existing monsters? Basically, I just want someone else to beat the shit out of Rand Paul. Once is good.
So you're talking like a Republican RoboCop?
It's more of a Republican Terminator, or the thing from...
Don't they already have a Republican Terminator?
Dude. Oh, gosh.
God.
I walked right into that one, huh?
Yeah, it's good. By the way, just in case anyone was wondering, the guy who beat up Rand Paul was just a neighbor who didn't like where Rand Paul's leaves were. Mm-hmm. It's the most libertarian reason to break someone's ribs, as it turns out.
Well, he's just letting the free market decide where those ribs should go. It's the supply and demand of ribs. His neighbor demanded that they be all over the inside of his body.
Yeah, it's just whenever something bad happens, there's always these creeps on the social media who said, "Well, this is obviously Antifa," or "This is the leftists." And it's no, it's almost not. It's definitely not.
Newsflash, guys! There are dicks everywhere.
Yeah, there is that, but
you don't have to specifically belong to any fringe organizations, or you can just be a guy.
Right.
And
I mean, speaking of Antifa, did you guys enjoy our uprising where we beheaded all the white parents? That was really fun.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like, you know, the hysteria about people who don't like fascists is like way more like out of control than, you know, people who just don't like fascists. It's annoying because like it's like a conspiracy theory like sinkhole that I have to like gaze into every once in a while when I go on Twitter. Do you want to talk about fun stuff this week? Because I got some of that.
we can try.
This is the first time in literally a year, basically
Yeah.
a year to the day, that fun stuff and politics actually intersect, because Virginia had an election, and there was a bunch of other elections across this country that turned out very well. I think we had, I believe,
New Jersey.
5 transgender elected representatives in the United States that took the
That's
seats
neat.
of bigoted douche holes. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean it was a good day. We'll see how if it lasts, but I'm pleased. In the interim.
Yeah, I'm holding my breath until next year. Like, just
All right.
that's it. Just straight up holding my breath for
I like
another
that attitude.
12 months.
Like Leon and Johnny win the lottery, they hand you just a big bag with a dollar sign in the front, and you're like, well, life is only temporary, so...
Look, I prefer to set my expectations a little lower, just so I don't get disappointed.
Okay.
So
I'd be happy if I slept well tonight.
neat.
That would be
so-
nice. I've got a cup of tea right here,
Oh.
and I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be good, aren't you, buddy?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, someone talk about a movie or a video game or something.
Me, I will. I saw 4 movies in the theaters in the last few
At the
days.
same time?
3 of them in one day, and the 4th one like 2 days later. But I don't have that much to say about the 4th one. I do want to talk about 3 lesser films that I saw on a Saturday, because I was ahead of schedule in all of my projects, and I was like, I have a day. I'm going to the movies, and I'm going to do only that all day.
You know, Leon,
And
can I
did.
just say before you continue here that I really like that, like, when you get ahead on work, you relax by doing more movie stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I
it's
like
just,
that. That's like, you know, that you know what you love. Because I don't know anybody else that's like, gee, I'm really ahead of my hedge trimming. Gonna go home and garden.
Yeah, well, I mean, in reality,
I don't know anybody that trims hedges for a living, just so we're clear, but like
It's
the
fine.
analogy
Yeah.
stands.
Fair enough. 2 of the 3 movies I saw that Saturday, I did need to see for work because I need to compile a list of the worst movies of the year, and 2 of them are definitely going to be on it. And I assumed that
Did you
they
know
would
that
be.
beforehand?
Beforehand, I assumed that based on everything I heard, I thought that they might make the list. Yeah. The first one I saw was called The Snowman,
Oh,
and it stars Michael Fassbender as a man named Harry Hole, and nobody makes a joke about it in the movie, which is great. Maybe like before the movie starts, everyone just exhausts all the Harry Hole jokes, and by the time the narrative begins, everyone's just tired of it.
Or maybe they're just adults, Leon.
No,
okay.
bullshit. It's very funny.
I'm
Shut
biting
up.
my lip really hard.
It's great, but no. The issue with the movie isn't that, like, you know, it's a little tedious or the acting is this or that. It's nothing like that. It's that they didn't finish it. They didn't finish the movie. They publicly acknowledged that they didn't finish about 15% of the movie.
Right, I heard about this. I read something about this.
Yeah, and because of that, see, the thing about when you have missing pieces of the movie, it basically makes editing not only that you have to edit around those 15% of the movie, I should say, that you didn't have, but also if stuff is missing in those in that 15% that is related to specific other points in the movie, then those other points in the movie have to go too, because they won't make sense without it. So the whole movie is just it's like edited in a blender. Like, it doesn't entirely make a lot of sense.
So they didn't even like Ralph Bakshi it and do like just pencil drawings for like
there was apparently for them, like, they gave up. They didn't say, hey, let's do reshoots. Let's just do that. They just said, no, this is terrible. So let's just throw it together. And they did. Another funny thing about the movie that is just really embarrassing to watch is, they hired Val Kilmer, which itself is not a bad thing because he's a very good actor. But, he unfortunately in recent years he's had some health issues, and it's made talking difficult, but they hired him anyway. And here's the thing, all of his lines, they couldn't hear him well, so they dubbed over him, and it's really obvious.
Did they dub him with his own voice, or
I don't even know. Like I'm not even sure. Like, for whenever he's looking at the camera and he's talking and there is another voice talking, it's really obvious. So what they did, like 90% of the time, whenever he had to like speak, the camera is facing away from him, like it's behind him. But they go to that well so often that it's really clear what they're doing, even if you don't know the story of Val Kilmer's voice or the production or anything. It's still you see them do it enough times that you're sort of clued in that something is wrong here. Like it's not done artfully, I should say.
Wow,
is how I'll put it. It's bad. It's not. It's even if they had done it well and it had been edited competently and everything just sort of like went as it was supposed to, it still would have been a pretty, run of the mill kind of dreary thriller movie. But this just makes it like difficult to watch. The joke about the movie isn't even the editing. It's that it's called the Snowman, and like the Snowman leaves messages for Michael Fassbender, and it's like, hey, Mr. Policeman, I'm gonna kill someone tonight. And then at the bottom there's a picture of a snowman. It's like very crudely drawn, like an MS Paint or something. It just looks very bad throughout the whole film. It was awful. Here's the thing. I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the movie, and I thought I would be alone because, like, this is just, like, universally panned. It's not playing at a lot of places. But, like, 12 other people decided that this is what they would do on their Saturday. And I was looking around, and I'm like, are you all film critics? And ironic hipsters, or did you actually think that this was good? Did you not check first? But nobody said anything as everyone was walking out of the
and everybody
theater,
just kind of looked embarrassed that they were all there. And
I don't know. Like I didn't ask any of them how they felt about it because I didn't feel like intruding. But I can't imagine anyone enjoyed it. Afterward, I watched the only good movie I saw that day, which is Happy Deathday, and it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I saw the ad for that. It's just like a horror Groundhog's Day, which seemed like a pretty good premise.
It is. The premise is good, but also, like, it sounds like there would be a little bit of that, like, horror jokey joke in it, but it is, like, it is a horror comedy. Like, I didn't get that from the trailer. I thought that this would be, this is going to be like a scary movie, but, like most scary movies, there's going to be some jokes. And it's like, no, it's like solidly like a horror comedy with, it's like a PG-13 horror movie with lots of jokes.
Do you think the Snowman would have been better if it would have been a horror comedy? That feels like they should have just leaned in. Like, there is at least one killer Snowman movie I'm aware of, and
there's more than one.
Yeah,
I think.
I think, and also there's the Michael Keaton movie Jack Frost, which is not intended as a horror movie, but as I found a review, Roger Ebert, in fact, said it is the most repulsive single creature in the history of special effects, according to Roger Ebert, and that is the non-horror Snowman movie.
Not to be confused with the movie Jack Frost, which is a horror movie.
Yeah.
There's on the Wikipedia they have listed a 1997, a 64, a 79 Jack Frost. So there's at least three that they're aware of, and several of them are horror.
Yeah, old Jack is in the public domain. So I saw Happy Death Day. I don't have much to say about it, except it was good, and people should go see it while it's still in the theater. It wasn't like an amazing film, but I maybe it was just because I just saw The Snowman, but I had a real good time with it. I did. I learned something about myself while I was watching it, though. When I'm in a theater and someone is like in the next row ahead of me or 2 rows ahead of me, and they like jump at the scary parts or like whisper a lot, or talk a little, like I find that really obnoxious, because shut up, I'm watching a movie. But here's the thing. There were a lot of people who reserved seats for a showing of this, and we all picked the back rows, and since it's reserved seats, you don't just move. And I like sat next to people because we were all crowded in. And to the left of me was a lady, and to the left of her was, I guess, her boyfriend or husband. And she was a whisperer and a talker and a screamer, but I wasn't bothered by it at all. And I think it's because of the same reason that Stockholm Syndrome exists. Like, it's like, I don't like this, but we're sharing an experience because you're like right next to me. I don't know. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it instead of hated it. And I was like sitting there like, why am I not bothered by this woman? Why am I kind of enjoying the fact that she's whispering to her husband and having a good time with this movie? And the only thing I could think of is like, we're like sitting next to each other, and like, I don't have to hate you from afar. You're like a real person. That's the only way I could try to figure out why this is different. Because it's normally the thing I hate the most. I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is if you're going to talk at the movie with me, you better sit right next to me, and you better be a compelling character. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was annoyed with someone in the theater who was sitting a couple of seats to my right. But not because of anything she did. She just brought her 3-year-old daughter to a horror movie. And I'm sitting there. I was like, stop being cool, Mom. You know, you don't bring your little kids to a horror movie. I don't want to be like a Puritan about this, but like, I don't know if that's cool. I don't know. I don't want to be like a jerk and say you're being an irresponsible parent, but like, it's a horror movie and there's like sex stuff and they're small children. This isn't like taking your kid to like something that's like PG and mildly risque. You're watching people get murdered. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older and that's the reason it bothers me. I wasn't wagging my finger at her, but I was just kind of like rolling my eyes a bit. And that's it. That was my experience watching Happy Death Day. I'll try to go very quickly through the third movie because I'm obviously taking a lot of time with this since I watched 3 movies in one day. But the last movie was Geostorm.
Oh.
Yeah. The reason I had to go see The Snowman and Geostorm was because I heard they were among the worst movies of the year, and my worst movies of the year video, which is the only time of the year I'm like a critic. You know, it would be incomplete if I did not see these movies. So I saw Geostorm. And here's the thing. It wasn't that bad. It was just regular bad. Like I heard it was just abysmal, but no, it's a movie, and unlike The Snowman, it was complete. Like it hit all the regular beats of a movie. It wasn't that bad. The 2 things I'll just mention, then I'll leave this alone because again I feel like I'm going on a bit long. One is the opening narration like cracked me up because of how badly they timed everything, or maybe they hadn't realized what they were doing. It's this little girl, and she's the daughter of like the main character, played by 300 guy, and she says, you know, the world was at risk, and there was only one man who could save it. And as she said, there's only one man who could save it, the title came on the screen and it said Geostorm. it looked like the movie was trying to tell me that his name was Geostorm because of how it was timed. So as a little private joke to myself, I just kept calling him Geostorm throughout the whole movie. And I had a little fun with myself. And the opening scene was like, it was terrible, but I was cracking up because he's a scientist, but he's like a tough guy scientist. And he had to go before the Senate committee on science stuff. And he was like, the Senate didn't like the way he did things because he was real brash and he had a lot of bravado. So it was like the science and politics version of like the loose cannon detective who goes before the chief, and he's like, I bet I get results. And I expect like Richard Schiff, who played one of the politicians, to say, hand in your badge and gun, Geostorm. It was amazing.
Leon, his name was Giovanni Stormovich, but they changed it to Ellis Island. So
that'll do it. But yeah, the movie was not good. But here's the cool thing about it. I really wish it had been good because I'm right there with its politics. And not just like, save the earth kind of like environmental stuff, but it is like explicitly anti-nationalist and explicitly pro-globalist. Like the villain wants to make America the only main superpower in the world again.
So he rains on dudes.
And the good guys basically want to create greater international cooperation. That is their entire mission. So the whole thing is like it's very political. And if it had been a better movie, I would have been all about it. But here's the thing I've noticed. Like, a bad movie with politics I agree with is not going to make me like it enough, but a competently made movie with shitty politics will be enough for me to hate it, oddly enough. I'm not sure why it works that way. Anyway, that was it. I also
saw... Can you just answer one question for me?
Of course. Go ahead.
All right, please.
Yeah.
What the fuck is a geostorm?
Oh, they say it a bunch of times in the movie. A geostorm, at least according to the movie, is a storm that like creates other storms and then it just wraps around the world. I do not know if that's true. I decided not to look it up in the middle of a movie.
I looked it up after you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And I was like, define Geostorm. And the top result is Geostorm is a 2017 American science fiction disaster film.
Yeah. They name drop it like 20, 30 minutes in, and then they say it a few more times, and it's like, we only got 90 minutes till the Geostorm. It's like, okay, all right. I mean, if you keep saying it, it'll sound impressive eventually.
They're trying to make fetch happen.
They are. It was very bad. But here's the thing, like, I didn't hate the experience of watching it. I was very bored and annoyed when I watched the Snowman. I didn't like hate the experience of watching Geostorm because of my own little private jokes and fun stuff. And I also had junior mints at the time, which made it better. And that's it. Those are my movies I saw that day. I also saw Thor and Ragnarok. It was pretty good, like all MCU movies. That's it. It wasn't, it was a little goofier than average. Like it wasn't hysterical though. It was just, that kind of like comedy that you see in Marvel movies. It's fine. I'm not bashing it. I do have a problem with the way it describes colonialism, because that's like the movie. I hate to spoil too much of it, but basically Odin used to be like a guy who went out and conquered other realms, and Thor didn't know that. He thought he was always a peaceful guy. And colonialism ended when Odin decided against it. That's not how countries get out of that. Not when the thing that has their thumb on them decides to be nice suddenly.
Leon, I'm reading a historical textbook right here, and Queen Victoria at one point says, and I quote, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
Yeah. The I don't want to get too much into it because it's spoilers and a lot of people haven't seen it yet. But basically, its politics are muddled in a way that I didn't like. But again, not so badly that it made me like hate the movie. It was fine. That's it. Jeff Goldblum was charming. He looks very good for his age, by the way. Like shockingly so. Just really great. He was really great. The movie was fine. I may or may not do an episode about colonialism as it relates to Thor Ragnarok later. Depends on if someone pays me, or if I have a spare week. And that's it. That's what I wanted to say about movies, and I'll shut up now.
Finally, now the cool kids can talk.
Uh-huh.
I also saw
do you have
a
this week,
mediocre
Austin?
Marvel movie recently. I saw Ant-Man, which I was... Boycott's a strong word, but when Edgar Wright got taken off the project, I lost interest in paying for it, and then it came onto a streaming service, so I did watch it. It's perfectly mediocre. Like, Paul Rudd is a charismatic guy, and he makes faces, and he does CGI punches, and then I only remember, like, 2 scenes from it, and I saw it, like, 2 days ago. So... In one ear, one out the other. Do you guys have any Ant-Man feelings?
When I first saw it, I saw CGI youngified Michael Douglas, and I was like, "That's witchcraft." But you know, besides that, I mean, besides the interesting technological breakthrough there, which really a few years later is now not as good. Like I thought it was just fine. It's like a middle of the road, completely watchable movie, which is kind of what I say about most MCU movies. Yeah, it was okay. That's it.
Yeah, I also saw Arrival.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm making a chef face.
It's a difficult movie to talk about. I've been meaning to see it for a long time, but like Ant-Man, it just wasn't available for free streaming until recently, so I got on that one.
Because Villeneuve's my boy.
Yeah, I of course really like Sicario, and I really like Blade Runner 2049. So like I'm pretty on that train with you guys. We bought our tickets. We're sitting in our little compartment. And we're eating finger sandwiches. Arrival is a just achingly beautiful movie, and it does some pretty interesting things. It's hard to talk about without spoilers. But it also, the twist is that it has the same plot as my favorite novel of all time, basically. So, I don't know if I'd say it's, wildly original, but it just kind of adapts to screen some stuff that I already really liked and was really gorgeous while doing so.
It's like a pretty swinging episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Or just like an updated version of like the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or it's about aliens in a kind of like surface sense. It's really about language and communication and how we communicate with people across like culture and language and through traumatic events and trauma and stuff, and like all that's great. It's really cool. But do you guys have any like takeaways from it? Like anything strong? Any hot takes?
I loved it when I saw it. I don't have a hot take on this movie, but I did rather enjoy it quite a bit. I liked that it was an aliens are among us now movie that is really just guys trying to figure it out, and that it basically the if you watch the trailer for it, you might think this is like an alien invasion movie. I was like, oh, well, this is what that is about. It's like, no, they're like scientists, and if something like this happened, this is like the best case scenario for what might happen to us if aliens arrive on Earth. We might actually not immediately try to destroy them. So that's cool. I did like the personal drama as well. Again, like if I go too deep into that, it's just spoiling the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
Amy Adams basically has to carry the entire movie on her goddamn back. Jeremy Renner doesn't lend a single iota of help.
Which is okay by me. I found like it was just enough Jeremy Renner, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, he's fine.
Just a dash. I was like, I'm good.
I could take it or leave it. I think Forrest Whitaker was pretty good too, but
okay.
It's an understated movie. I understand why it like isn't a huge blockbuster success. I assume it made its budget back, but
yeah,
I don't know if it won like did it win awards? We should check. I should check.
It's a pretty chill deep dive sci-fi movie. I mean, you know, like that's like classic sci-fi, you know, like it uses a weird, like anomalous situation, like aliens coming to Earth to talk about something much more immediate. Mm-hmm. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It won Best Sound Editing at the Oscars and was nominated for 7 other things it didn't win. So
it had quite some sounds.
It did have a lot of sounds. Anyway, that's just another thing I saw. I feel like the only other thing I have to talk about is going to be like a whole production. So, Johnny, if you want to jump in and get your hand on the ball.
I don't know that I got anything this week.
That's fine.
You know,
no balls.
I'm drinking tea and listening to old Nico Case albums and just living in filth, you know.
Okay.
I'm looking at the reviews for Arrival now, and while it was overwhelmingly beloved by critics, 94 on Rotten Tomatoes, there is one negative review here. Rex Reed, writing for the New York Observer, gave the film 1 out of 4 stars, calling it Villeneuve's latest exercise in pretentious poopery.
Yeah, this sounds like the kind of guy I want to tell me what to watch.
I just like pretentious poopery. That's that's a pretty good turn of phrase. Boring guy.
Yeah. Oh well. I have other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually also movie related, but it's not about me watching a movie. A friend of mine and colleague, Diamanda Hagen, said something about Justice League on Twitter a couple days ago, and I think I responded, or I said something and she responded. Point is, we were talking about Justice League on Twitter, and normally I don't go into my notifications of people who I do not follow, because it's never well, I shouldn't say it's never good. It's sometimes bad. But I just felt like it that day, and I checked. And someone who does not follow me or follow Hagen, didn't like that we were unenthusiastic about the upcoming Justice League movie. And he was like, "No, it's going to be great. You're wrong. You're being silly." And I was like, "Who are you? What is this?" She laughed, but I was curious. So I clicked on him. And at first I was like, I have a Chrome extension that checks if someone... No. I have a Chrome extension that checks if someone is a bot or not. And he was not. So I was like, okay, this is a living, befleshed person who just really likes Justice League. And not just because he said that to us. His entire timeline is him searching the term Justice League on Twitter and arguing with people who are not excited for it. And I could have just let it go there, because this guy is not worth my time. He's just some fool who thinks it's okay to treat Twitter this way. And I could just easily mute him, and it's not a big deal.
What alarms me more about this is not that he thinks it's okay to treat Twitter this way, but that it's okay to treat his own free time this way.
Yeah, this is all, like, every tweet is about this. It's not about anything else. Like, I'm sitting there like, this has to be like a DC Warner Brothers bot, and it's like, it's not. He's like responding like directly to people who respond to him. And like I said, I could have just let this go, but I don't know. I was feeling particularly sassy that day. So
did it occur to you, Leon, that he may have been a cyborg?
It's always a possibility. What happened was this. I I instead of like, I tried to explain to him that like, you don't follow me or her, so you're just searching for this term and bothering random people. Maybe stop. And he just kept saying no because, So instead of just letting him be, I decided to try to hip him to an upcoming movie that I was looking forward to that doesn't exist. So he just kept saying, I'm only looking forward to Justice League. And I said, no, you should check out this upcoming French film, Chateau de Fromage. And he's like, no, I only want to see Batman. And he was like, no, here's why you should see it. And I just kept going,
Cheese House.
Yeah. So I kept, the weird thing is, like, this is, like, obvious. This is an obviously not real movie. This is obviously from someone who knows, like, 3 words in French. And is messing with someone. But he didn't catch that. Or maybe English is his second language and French is not any of his languages. I don't know. But he just, this went on for a while and I kept saying, like, but it's starring Pierre Lapierre. And he wouldn't get it. And he's like, no, but this will have Gal Gadot. She's in it. I want to see that. And you should want to see it. See, I don't care if you want to see Justice League. Please go see it. I mean, I'm going to see it because it's part of my life. My only issue is with, like, insisting upon other complete strangers to go see it is the part that bothered me. So eventually I left him alone because there was only so much I could mine from it. But that is what I decided to waste some of my time on that night. It actually didn't take very long. The amount of time I spent on it is about the amount of time I've taken just now explaining it. But I had some fun with the cheese house. So that was cool. I have other shit I could talk about, but it sounds like Austin had like a big thing, and I'm ready for a big thing.
Okay. You probably should just say I'm ready for the big thing online because that's evidence against you.
Guys. I'm ready for the big thing.
Give me the big thing. Actually, I think I'm just seeing on my timeline now. Apparently, 7 transgender politicians were elected, not 5. So that's even better.
That's
cool.
Neat.
Hey guys, the country is okay sometimes.
Sometimes.
A little bit. Also, I retweeted this. I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a woman in Florida who was arrested for DUI for horse.
Horse what?
Does that mean that the horse was drunk? Or...
No, she was drunk on the horse going down the highway. I believe that was a question we got early in this show.
Right.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still. I feel like we didn't come down on it. Did we?
I think I said it depends on the state. There are states where it's not DUI, and there are states where it is.
Right.
That's the boring answer to most questions in law, unfortunately. Sorry about America. Anyway, here's the thing that I spent the most of my time this week doing that wasn't boring, which was I watched a television series adaptation of the Stephen King story. To stop me if this sounds familiar. Of The Mist.
Oh yeah, doesn't Netflix has that now, doesn't it?
It does. I saw that.
Austin, you're just on a kick, aren't you?
Yeah, we have a theme. I have a theme. I'm doing something here. So The Mist, as most people know, is a story from the 1980s that Stephen King wrote, which is about a town where like a mist shows up and there's monsters in the mist and they kill people. That's basically the whole thing. It's a pretty simple story, pretty archetypal. It's been adapted a couple times. There was a movie with our good friend Thomas Jane, which is most notable for its hilariously bleak ending. Just one of my favorite endings of all time. It rules. And there's also this TV show, which ran for 1 season before being canceled. I believe it was on Spike TV. I just binged the whole thing on Netflix. It ends on a cliffhanger, and the show got canceled, and I knew that going in.
Them.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different things that are interesting about The Mist. The first one, I think the one that like everyone, or not everyone, but I think the bullet trivia fact is like, did you know The Mist inspired Half-Life? It's in the same universe. Like, yeah, cool. Do you know that's true, and it is cool. That's the whole thing. Is like Half-Life is the same story. It's they find a portal to another dimension and aliens come through and start killing people. And then there's of course the ending to the film version, which is infamous for good reasons. And then there's this TV show, which I literally didn't know existed until I saw it on Netflix, which leads me to believe it was the worst version, and it is. It's pretty bad in a couple ways. The effects are pretty bad. Some of the acting is weak. But I also think each of these versions of this same very simple story are kind of revealing of the culture of the time. Like when I read The Mist, right? It's about like small town America and its prejudices, and especially Christianity, fundamentalist Christianity, which is a recurring theme in Stephen King's work, and how it kind of turns people on each other. Because the whole story isn't just them fighting monsters in the mist. Literally, the original story and the film are about people who hold up in a grocery store and like basically barricade themselves against the monsters and then turn on each other. It's a very like, who are the real monsters? The monsters or us kind of thing. It's very, Dawn of the Dead. But the story in its original form kind of reflects this anxiety about fundamentalist Christianity and how it basically poisons towns against each other in like rural America, because it takes place in Maine. And then the film, I felt, was taking the very same premise and kind of adapting it to our post 9/11 feelings. There are definitely parts where people are just like, is this terrorists? And then the way that people turn on each other is like very much the anti-Muslim sentiment after 9/11. This carries over into the series as well. There's a Muslim character who says, people like me don't last very long in these kind of situations. I think the story is very malleable in that. And then you have this new version, which has a lot of, I would say, modern themes. There's a lot of people talking about things like privilege and safe spaces, and like they keep using these terms. And it's like, I think the story is really flexible, and I think that they keep reinterpreting it. It keeps saying different things, which I think is kind of cool. Do you guys have any strong feelings about The Mist before I get into my specific thoughts about this TV series that I watched?
I like the movie. I have not read the story. I have not seen the show.
Twinsies!
I think that's most people's position. So the TV series, it does not follow any of the characters from the story or the film, because the film's pretty faithful to the story for the most part. It's the same kind of guy in the grocery store. I think the only thing that's changed is the ending, and there's like a romance thing that's more fleshed out in the story between the main character and a lady. Besides that, they're pretty similar. The TV show, of course, having to support an entire season of television, doesn't limit itself to just one supermarket. There's a couple different groups of survivors. There's one in a mall, one in a police station, one in a church, and they all have like their own agendas. And the first episode is spent setting up all of their interrelationships. This is fine in theory. I think one of my least favorite things, and what I think kills the series for me to like recommend it to people, is that they hang a lot of the drama on an instance of sexual assault that happens before the mist shows up. And like a lot of the things that happen after that are literally people just relitigating that. And I understand in theory what they were trying to do. It's very much like the way that Christianity was a focus in the story, or terrorism was in the film. That in the series, it's about the way people treat women, about whether they believe them or not, about how men have certain privilege. Like the accused person is a football player, so the town assumes he's like untouchable and stuff. And I get it, and I'm not saying that art can't explore that. I just don't think this Spike TV series that was canceled after one season has the chops to pull it off. It's kind of
What about
rough.
a Spike TV series that was canceled after 1.5 seasons?
Well, I mean, the extra half season, who knows? They could have all kinds of cool twists and turns. Probably not. It tries. I'll say that much about it, and I think there's some things about it that are notable. Like there's a bisexual main character, and I think they fumble that somewhere along the line, but for a while there, I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen just like a normal ass TV show just have a bisexual male character. Can you guys think of any? Like, is that, I guess,
some of those teenage vampire shows they got pretty close.
I don't really watch the CW, where
Not
I
that I'm
assume
like
those live.
super versed in teenage vampire shows. I get a lot of subtext from the commercials I've seen.
Yeah. And so the series, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than its quality would lead you to believe. I think there's some interesting things they do with just the core premise. One is that instead of just being generic monsters that are from an alien dimension in the mist seems to be some kind of intelligent force that manifests the murderous things based on the person being murdered, which is not like wholly original. I think a lot of like Freddy Krueger, it's like basically Freddy Krueger's The Mist, right? Where it's like, you are this way, so this is how you're gonna die, and that's fine. The original premise isn't sacrosanct. I don't think it has any like bearing on the quality of what they're trying to do. I thought that was an interesting twist. I just don't think they got a chance to pay it off because it got canceled. And also there are some pretty goofy special effects. I think the idea of premising an entire series on a giant cloud of mist and then in the first episode showing it and it looking bad was probably not a great choice. So I don't know. I'm trying to think what actually compelled me through it, because I watched all of it in like one sitting and I couldn't stop, even though I could see objectively all the problems with it. I think part of it is just that there's something about the format of like people in crisis making hard decisions. Like early Walking Dead is also this, where it's like, even when I hated it, I just kept watching. I just think there's something compelling about maybe just that premise in general, which is kind of divorced from other things about the show, maybe. But also, I do think that The Mist lends itself really well to just exploring like small town prejudices and the kind of almost like panopticon of a rural America where everyone enforces norms despite them being either facially ludicrous or provably wrong. Like there's like 3 or 4 different characters whose entire purpose is just to run around yelling like, that ain't how a real man act, like at every opportunity. And it's just like, it should be goofy, but I actually have met those guys, so it kind of rings true. And it's sad, but I remember there was a time, like I think when like undergrad of college for me, where I thought maybe like I had outgrown Stephen King because he wasn't very subtle, right? He didn't have those big themes, those ideas, and those rich characters. And then in 2017, I've kind of come back around. It's like I think most people are actually kind of pretty simple, static characters with pretty base motivations. I think he actually kind of knows human psychology pretty well. So, I don't know. I think that's where I am. I think Stephen King is something that you kind of always come back to, even when you think you've outgrown him. It's just, especially this show, right? We're back on our Stephen King bullshit pretty much as often as possible.
Yeah. While you were talking, not that I wasn't also listening.
That's fine. I wasn't listening either.
It's fine. I looked up a list of television series with bisexual characters. There are a lot. But it's not a great many as the main character. So, and for those that are the main character, it's like suggested or hinted at in such a way that it is impossible to miss, but it is not like explicitly said outright. Like, for example, there's like a few instances in the show Bob's Burgers where Bob very clearly displays the fact that he is a bisexual, but he never like says it out loud. So it's like you could miss it.
I thought you were gonna say Xena Warrior Princess, because that's where my mind originally went. But
there that too. But yeah, like as an example. But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Stephen King. Yep, we all King.
We do all King. Yeah,
we do. Great. I have more stuff. Oddly enough, this week, like surprisingly, a lot of stuff. It's all kind of like dumb, really kind of like short, dumb stuff though. Quick. I told the president to eat shit, and the first thing that happened was someone retweeted it. So I was like, yeah, someone agrees with me about the president how he should eat shit. But it was something called Eat Shit Bot. A Twitter account exclusively designed to find people saying eat shit to each other and then retweeting it. So it's like, thanks. See, you are a bot. I could tell. So that happened. Also, funny story about and not funny story about last week's show, and the funny story. Two funny stories about last week's show. First of all, like our dick sucking conversation was really popular in the forums. So like maybe we should talk about dick sucking more often. And second, there is nothing that will bring out people who want to apologize for creepy, predatory, or especially like statutory kind of rape behavior than mentioning it. just mentioning that it's bad, because someone will pop up and say, no, I mean, if you think about it, you know, that kind of thing, and trying to explain the difference between being sexually attracted to someone who's 15 and 12 as if I'm supposed to care.
Yeah, that person who jumps in is like, actually, it's hebephilia, not...
Yup! That guy. Yeah, someone did that last week, because I was talking about the fact that a teenage character was being basically, like, I fucked by an adult, and how, like, that was... I don't know. I was like, I was uncomfortable that it was played for laughs, basically. I mentioned that, and someone did more or less what you just said, Johnny.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like the easiest way to get you blocked from my forums, because you don't belong here. If you're still listening, that was gross, and you can't do that. Stop right now. Go away. You're invisible to everyone on the forum now, on the comment section now. That's it. Those are some of the other things I could talk about. I could talk about the fact that the incel subreddit got banned because it's the worst one. But like, I don't know enough about it to go into it too much of a deep dive. But that's it. Those are my other internet interactions from this week that I thought were funny, and that's about it.
It's wild that you could characterize any subreddit as one of the worst ones, because the competition for that is so fucking fierce. That's like the Summer Olympics of jackasses.
Well, though, I picked up that rock and looked underneath it a couple of times. Wow.
Yeah,
some of the worst exchanges of ideas I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, some Socratic dialogue going on in there, my friends. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm not going to linger on this, but I do think it's important that people realize that these ideas are out there, and it's why we have to try to maintain vigilance and empathy and kindness in the world, is that the incel community was people who... Basically, they're men who couldn't get laid and think therefore...
It's a portmanteau for involuntary celibate.
Yes, and they think that
which on the surface does not sound terrible too much.
I know,
and then
that just kind of sounds like maybe some lonely people.
Yeah,
you could see how at the beginning maybe it was not malignant, maybe sad, but
right.
Not necessarily vile. But like their big talking points are that they should be assigned to girlfriends by like the government.
Either that, or the state should make prostitution tax deductible.
God, you could. That's like the number one red flag for me, that someone is a fucking jag-off, is that they are very concerned about trying to minimize their tax burden. That creeps is because taxes are so pervasive and they touch so many parts of our lives that basically anybody's gross opinions eventually come back to taxes in some way. They have a tax grievance associated with one of their many like fucking areas of interest and expertise, and it always comes back to that, and it's just a nearly 100% indicator that someone is a jag hole if they're very worried about their money going to something like that. It's just I'm taking my tax class and it's killing me.
For me, just one of the worst things about the incel movement was how weirdly exclusive they were. Because I remember at one point in time just going to their FAQ page. I can't even remember why I was lurking around there. I think some Reddit user or something like that tangentially put a comment somewhere, or I don't know.
I just see screenshots of like their really heinous shit they say that I posted on my timeline. But yeah.
But there was something on one of the subreddits that I read, the incel ones, there was this whole paragraph about how women can't be incels.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of their big talking point is that like women can have sex whenever they want, and that's not fair, which is not accurate, and B, like a complete misunderstanding of power dynamics in our society. Men occupy almost every single position of power that you could possibly imagine, and the idea that there's one imbalance is a grave injustice. That's my mind being boggled.
Yep.
Anyway, we're about into question time. Real quick before we get there, I just do want to say that I finally got around to seeing Kingsman, the first movie. There's a second one, but I haven't seen it yet. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
I did. I didn't like it.
I watching it, I was like, wow, this is really fun. I bet Leon hated it. That was literally my thought while I was watching it, which is why I wanted to bring it up. I think most people know it's a pretty critically acclaimed kind of comedy spy movie. Not as like goofy as Austin Powers, but kind of in the middle point between that and like James Bond. And it's just like a fun, like violent, stupid time of like a kind of brick charisma-less main character who meets a dapper gentleman, and they do like spy stuff but with like a knowing wink, and Samuel L. Jackson's the villain. It's fine, and I liked it, but I was watching it and I was like, everything about this screams that it would annoy Leon, and I was just very excited to hear why. I'm glad I was right, but I want to hear your takedown.
Part of it was like it's social politics basically, and like I said, like I can a bad movie with good politics will not make me like it, like Geostorm. A competently made movie like Kingsman with like some gross shittiness will make me dislike it. A lot of stuff, especially the end where the princess anal is reward is just too much for me. Not that I was loving it before that, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just saying like that explain. I feel like that should explain how I feel about the movie without going into a scene by scene analysis.
I mean, it's definitely a gross joke, but it's also just like taking the James Bond sex as reward thing to its absurd conclusion, which I can appreciate. I understand. Like I knew that you wouldn't find that funny, but I also understand why they left it in.
I understand what they left it in. I don't think here's the thing, Austin. I'm not giving first of all, this was from a comic from Mark Millar. So
that's the kick-ass guy, right?
Yeah, and a lot of other shit.
Which I also enjoy despite knowing that it's not great.
No, I mean he is shit. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm not giving the movie enough credit to think that the movie was trying to make like a condemnation of James Bond by doing this. I think they were saying, wouldn't it be fun if this guy, as a reward, got to fuck a princess up the butt? And that was what the ending was. I don't feel like it was like, you see what this is like. No,
I don't think it was a somber reflection. I think it was a grotesque,
it definitely was
like exaggeration. But I think is there any other politics in particular? Because I thought going into it, it'd be kind of like a elitist kind of thing, because it's like all these rich, sharply dressed people telling the poor like youth of London about like the proper way to be a man is kind of the premise. But then they kind of soften that by saying like, the suit is kind of a metaphor for our code.
There's something. There's no way to politicize Barack Obama's head exploding. I guess is what I'm trying to say. For example, I found, how do I put this? I saw the movie only once, and like I can't remember all the scenes and all the reasons I disliked it. But I found a shittiness about it that I didn't appreciate. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I did like that Mark Hamill was in a movie that wasn't Star Wars, and it was a big movie
for like 8 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, when he showed up, I'm like, oh, cool. You're like in something, and you're not a voice. That's good. I like that. And then
I'm trying to interrogate where my desire to defend the movie comes from, because like
you can like the movie. Like I'm not giving you shit because you like a movie.
Yeah, which I understand. I think we both have enough respect for each other to know that that's fine. But it's just like when you say that that has all these problems, I'm immediately like, my brain is generating excuses. So like, oh, you can't depoliticize Barack Obama's head exploding. It's like, I think that if a villain had a network of rich assholes and he was going to end the world and save only those people, I bet Barack Obama would be on that list. Like at the time, like I just don't think that.
Yes, but okay, but you're excusing something that happens in the narrative that was written by something else that was written in the narrative.
Agreed. I just don't think it's like a wild like. I don't think it was like, you know what would be really fun and racist for us to do, or like really fun and anti-American, or just like, I don't know. It just seemed like a natural extension in a way that didn't bother me.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's like, but I always come back to, did you have to do this? And it's like, yes. And then someone says, yes, I had to do this because of the other things I wrote before. And like, oh, well then don't do that part. It's like, no, I won't do. And that is always, that's always the, there's a term for this, and I didn't invent it. It's called like the Thermian argument, where someone tries to defend gross stuff in a movie by explaining it through other stuff that the writer wrote in the movie, which just doesn't work for me. And that's how I feel, I guess.
Yeah, I'm aware. It's the quiet has to be naked because she breathes through her skin. Thing. Which also,
yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's I mean, we don't have time to talk about it, but I also played Metal Gear Solid 5, and I really loathe that video game. It is beautiful, and it has a lot of things that are really interesting in the way it's designed, but it is a boring slog through meaningless garbage for most of it, and I actually gave up. Like, when I talk about video games on this show, I don't think I like reiterate this often enough, but I basically finish every game I start. But I gave them up on Metal Gear Solid 5. It is just a time-wasting suckhole. And there's like a cool beginning, and I bet there's like one cool cutscene later, but everything in the middle is just a bad sandbox full of people to choke. Okay. You guys don't have... Do you guys even have things capable of playing Metal Gear Solid? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, I've got it for the Steam.
Oh yeah, it's on PC.
I just don't have any interest.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you played it, Johnny?
I played the beginning of it, and then I was like, I'm going to put this down and come back to it later when I don't have a bunch of stuff on my plate. But everything that I played about it, actually, I think I would enjoy. But
the beginning is wildly misleading.
No, that's the thing, is that I played a little bit of the of like desert place stuff.
Yeah, the whole game. You mean the entire game?
And I think I would rather enjoy it, actually. Okay. Because I'm
jealous.
But I'm like, the thing is that when I play Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm like, Splinter Cell, you've come back to me, but with a different game name.
Yeah, I think the most common refrain is people say it's a good stealth game, but not a good Metal Gear game, and like, that's fine, and that's probably accurate. I probably could have saved us a lot of time and just said the thing that everyone says, but I was trying to be more original in how I approach it by just calling things suckholes, because that's my style now. But yeah, I mean, it's perfectly functional as a stealth game, but I play Metal Gear for the cool boss fights and like scenes of people cooking eggs in an airplane for half an hour in an unbroken shot.
I don't.
Okay.
You know, I'd never really, like, I played Metal Gear Solid, but after that, when I got to, like, 2, I was like, no.
Okay.
And then you and I had a conversation, like, a couple of years ago or something like that, where you were like, you never played Snake Eater? And I was like, no. So I bought Snake Eater for, like, my old PS2 or something, and I never played it. So that's how that story ends.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I feel like I was going to say Metal Gear is an acquired taste, but it's very, very popular. So maybe it's just like people who like video games are just more likely to like weird shit.
It just didn't jam on my happy button. Like, that's it, you know? Like, the first one was kind of like normal enough for me to be like, this is great. And then when it just went off the rails, I was like, bye. See you later.
All right. So I think it's question time. I have one here for Leon.
Oh, good. I bet it's about wrestling.
Oh, of course it is. It's Cyretha who asks, Leon, who is your favorite wrestling manager? Parentheses wrestling.
You have to say wrestling afterwards, even though you said wrestling. in it. That's how that works.
I'm fascinated by the fact that wrestling managers are part of the storyline, because I bet that's not how it started, and they ran out of ideas and had to back their way into it.
Wrestling managers are mostly they used to serve a purpose. They were usually positioned with a wrestler who was like athletic or like intimidating, but couldn't talk well. So and you need that, so they put a guy who can't talk very well with a manager who will talk for them.
Right. This is back in the day when fucking like the Undertaker first showed up, and he didn't speak a word. He would just stare at people. Right.
Yep. And Paul Bearer was there, and he would go, "Oh yes," and he would talk for him, and that was just how they did it. And ditto for guys like Bobby Heenan. Although sometimes Bobby Heenan would be paired with someone who could talk well, like Nick Bockwinkel.
That's a fun name.
It is. It really is. But yeah, the idea of the manager is to be an accessory of some sort, or to work as a heel on behalf of like another heel. Like, you know, the manager will like distract the referee. It'll just be the manager is just part of the story. They don't have very many managers anymore. I don't know why, because it was such a good idea, because there's a lot of guys who could really use one, and they just don't. Yeah, favorite of all time is tough. I really did like Paul Bearer a lot. I guess Bobby Heenan would be certainly up there among the very, very best. He passed away recently. But yeah, you know what? I love Paul Bearer so much. He was great, and he would like constantly like change alliances. Like sometimes he would work with the Undertaker, and sometimes he would betray the Undertaker and work with the Undertaker's brother Kane, and sometimes he would, he was great. I really enjoyed. I loved his antics. So yeah, I'm gonna say Paul Bearer. I'm not saying he's the best of all time, but he's definitely my favorite.
Also, that's just a good pun.
Yeah, it is. It's very good. I didn't get it as a child. Like I didn't know what that meant. I was like a small child, and I started watching wrestling. And I was like, oh, his name is Paul, and his last name is Bear, and that means nothing. I got it. I got it when I grew up a little bit. I hadn't been to any funerals. I didn't know. But yeah, it was. Wrestling is very goofy, and I dig it.
All right, we got a question here from Enzo Nolasco, Enzo Terra at Twitter. If you could become immortal, would you?
Yep.
Really? I'm surprised. I feel like this is one of those philosophy 101 questions where where if you think about it too hard, you go down the spiral, and there's no way you could possibly say that. Please explain, Leon. I'm excited.
No. I more than anything, I want to exist.
Okay.
I don't want to not exist. That is the thing that spirals me down, thinking about not existing.
Have you ever slept before? It's very good.
I understand that, but that's not the same thing, because I wake up.
Except for just the once.
Yeah, it's true. I understand from like there. I read a lot about well, all kinds of things in philosophy. I read about.
I'm very smart. I have a lot of books.
Look, I mean, it's my job. It is my job to read a lot of things about philosophy.
I feel like it's just my role on this is to dunk on you when you do stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, for anyone who only listens to Wordfunk and doesn't watch Renegade Cut, my show is about philosophy and politics as they relate to popular films, and sometimes not popular films. But yeah, I read a lot about philosophy, and I've read all the arguments about why I shouldn't be afraid of death, because death and you are never in the same place at the same time. You can't experience being dead. You just are, and that's it. So realistically, it's not something you can experience after it's happened, so you shouldn't fear it. I still would prefer to exist than not exist. So yeah. If someone said you can be immortal, although I would be a little briefly hesitant because, like, oh, how am I going to feel a million years from now? I would still rather take the gamble that I might get bored over the gamble that I might die. It's not a gamble. It's an inevitability. Yeah, I guess I would, although I might regret it in a million years. You know what? By a million years from the future, I'll know so much that I could reverse it if I wanted to. Yeah, this is me as always, trying to find a way to get around the question to turn it to my advantage.
Yeah.
But yes, the answer is yes, and I couldn't possibly be. I've heard all the arguments about, like, you know, there's always that movie, like, you know, the true immortality is blood. It's like, no, it's really not.
But Leon,
It's
once
not.
you get trapped in the Marianas Trench or under a mountain or something, and then you're just immortal in there forever.
That's you're giving me like an extreme possibility. And first of all, I couldn't be trapped there forever because the Earth will not exist forever. Eventually, I will float out into space, and although it would take a while, I will eventually crash down somewhere else. So there.
Yeah, I'm
Take
sorry.
that.
I don't know if you've seen space recently. It's kind of a big place to float.
Yes, but if I have an infinite amount of time, eventually I will plop onto something.
So you just gonna float through space jacking it for 12 millennia? Like, what are you gonna go crazy? Anyway, sorry.
I would still rather.
He'd
rather
probably
not
be
die.
unconscious for most of it, Austin, because
Yeah.
it would, like, you'd be freezing cold. Like, you wouldn't necessarily operate, but
Right.
Isn't that a misconception? Space isn't cold. It's just lower than body temperature. So you would pass out, but you wouldn't, like, freeze. That's my understanding. I'm not
Whatever.
a physicist.
no, I mean at
It's fine.
points it must be.
Look, the point I'm trying to say there is, look, I've read all the things. There's nothing that would ever convince me to not take the immortality button if someone presented it to me. But like, it's not going to happen, so it's something I shouldn't think about. So thanks for the question. I hate thinking about it because it's pointless.
I disagree very strongly with everything you've just said, and retroactively
Go
most of
ahead.
the things you've ever said. Because I feel like one of the biggest problems with existence as it currently is that people live too long, and their hateful ideas get to stretch on and make as many people as possible miserable. And I feel like we need a kind of higher turnover rate for the betterment of everyone's experience.
Wow. Okay. First of all, that's like mildly eugenics.
It's mildly, but listen, you pushed me to this extreme because now you're jacketed in space for 12 million years. And I can't let this stand, Leon.
Okay, I like my "let's all live forever" version of reality over Austin. This is like light eugenics.
It's
experiment.
not light eugenics. It's just not immortality. I think there's a clear difference. Also, Leon, if everyone lives forever, then what's the mechanism for social progress? Because then it's just Roger Ailes forever. Like he's just
right, but
out there.
We'd be in a post-scarcity society.
You think
Like,
that would
we
change?
wouldn't-
Dude, Rand Paul would still be throwing his leaves in your yard.
Yeah, but like, there's nothing. Like, I still get to live forever. So, like, what could he do to me?
He just bury you in leaves.
First of all, Rand Paul could kiss my ass, and I could totally take him. So there's
Sure.
that. His fucking curly hair.
Just punch his hair right off.
Yeah, just grab it. I'm just sorry, but like I can reach in and like get my hands in there, and then I could just like, you know, I get him in a clinch and then knee him.
Think about
You know?
how bad income inequality would be if rich people lived forever and there was no estate tax to even try to shrink their fortunes, and they could just network to infinity. It's just that is my dystopia: is people who don't have any limits on their ability to grow in power, which is the only thing death gives us.
First of all, the entire world, but everything would be different because we wouldn't you wouldn't need to struggle to live anymore.
Don't now. There's enough food and shelter for everyone, and people artificially create the struggle. Unless society had always been immortal, in which case culture might have developed differently. I'm open to that argument, but I think if we were granted immortality now, we actually wouldn't change that much because people are stuck in their ways and resistant to change.
Still sounds better than dying.
Okay, Johnny,
Like,
you have a
like,
hot take? I think we're both going to be pretty entrenched down here. We're in our trenches.
I have a couple of conditions.
Okay.
And that is
Johnny's thought
only
about this.
me. All right.
No. When I press the button, I'm not saying I press the button for everyone. I'm just saying I press the button.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm down with that declaration. 2, no decrepitude. Because just because you live forever, does that mean you don't age?
That's always the problem with these hypotheticals. It's like, I want super speed. Okay, well, you burst into flames from the friction and die the first time you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assume that you have protection against the basics of it in the same way that I wish I could fly, but you won't like pass out if you go up too high.
What it's called,
Stuff
like
that.
secondary necessary characteristics or something. It's
Yeah,
like
if we meet all the secondary, conditions, so that it's not like, ha!
Yeah.
You live forever, now you're gonna look like shit in 100 years. I would probably take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take it only in the instance that this was a button the three of us had access to, and you both pushed it, and then I had to become an immortal Avenger to hunt you down and prevent you from doing your dark deeds.
I would just I would read, man.
I'd be like
Yeah,
Blade,
like
only the half vampire could take down the other vampires.
Yeah, like the amount of good I can do in my one lifetime, I would stretch out across infinity. So I feel like that would be actually pretty good.
Think about how many movies you could talk about on your show.
Yeah, I know. Like I mean, I spent my entire Saturday watching 3 movies, and during the third one, I wasn't sure if it was a good use of my time, but now I'm like, let's watch 5.
The wild thing is, even if you were immortal, you still wouldn't have enough time to do a Renegade cut on every Stephen King movie.
Well, I mean, okay.
Okay, a couple of couple of quicker
question.
ones, which have, I think, pretty definitive answers. Common Ryan, Novo Art Punk on Twitter.
Nouveau Art Punk.
Yeah, my mouth is bad today. Favorite band or artist that sings exclusively in a foreign language. The Pillows are one of my favorite bands. This is a quote from the tweet. Even though I don't speak or understand Japanese, Pillows are pretty famous for being on the Fooly Cooly soundtrack. I enjoy them as well. But do you guys have any non-English speaking bands?
I do have a lot of non-English speaking bands, yeah. But
Shout them out, Johnny.
I always used to really love fucking Einstürzen Neubauten. Back from my industrial days. There's a Japanese post-rock outfit that they don't sing, but I'm still going to count them because they are Japanese, called Mono. I really like Mono. Ooh, geez. Digging through my memory here, trying to find more stuff, and it's not coming. Who else do I like that's Japanese? There's a couple of Japanese bands that I've always liked. Fantastic Plastic Machine was always kind of poppy. That's a very
good name.
There's a couple of Shibuya style kind of bands that I sort of liked. Zongamin was one. Fucking Pizzicato 5. The old J-pop scene of the late 90s was just on fire, man. They were fantastic. Tujiko Noriko is another one. A real weird kind of like experimental tape cutter Japanese artist. I liked her stuff. I don't think she's made anything in fucking years, though. I'm struggling now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that came to mind for me was not even in a foreign language. It's just not a language at all. Sigur Rós is an Icelandic band. They do. There's a name for it, but they're just sounds. They're not actually words. So
it's actually called like Nicelandic or something like that. Is what they called it.
It's basically their own language, but the idea is that the human voice could be an instrument. It's not so much about conveying meaning. It's just like cool, good sounds.
They have there's an Icelandic contemporary of theirs called Moom. Most of their albums are not in English. There's one that is, and it's still good, but like a lot of their stuff is not.
I'm on Sigur Ros's Wikipedia page now because, of course, I am, and they have a section here called Von Lenska, a term coined by the band to refer to the vocalizations that they use in lieu of lyrics in Icelandic or English. It literally means Hopelandic, apparently. So, yeah, it's cool. I recommend them. I think it's a pretty tough to get into because it's different from most music you've probably ever heard. But I think it's rewarding. There's also Cocteau Twins who do something similar. I don't know if they have a name for their language, but they don't use like actual words usually.
Mm-hmm.
I do like music from. I'm trying to find a better word than foreigner, but they're all just like composers because they were all like German and Austrian, all the good ones. But like in terms of like bands or musicians that their lyrics are in another language, I don't listen to enough music, even in English, to have my horizons that far to listen to like the greatest Japanese band that there is or whatever. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of anime openings and endings that are pretty dope that I listen to, but I don't really know those bands well. Oh, and Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta is an album which is largely in Spanish. That's very good.
Okay.
Anything else, anybody?
I'm scrolling
That's all
through
I
my
got.
music collection right now, and it's eluding me.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm scrolling through the questions and I have to think of like, what's a good question, but also what is a name that I'm physically capable of saying right now? Dr. Izix, I'm gonna say, asks, do you guys have any favorite visual artists, living or dead? Just curious. It's just like naming artists and bands and stuff today.
So is that like, are we just talking like still artists here?
I think you, Johnny, have flexibility with this question. No one can stop you. There are no rules. It's just right, Outback Steakhouse style.
Gregory Crewdson's photography. I've talked a little bit about Gregory Crewdson, I think, on the podcast before. His work is just like... It's set up like a movie. Like, they are some incredible, incredible photos. That's Crewdson, Crewdson. I've always been a fan of fucking... Oh, God, I can't believe I've forgotten his name.
Google somehow knew I was I typed in Gregory and it completed for me, which is creepy.
Dave McKean. Dave McKean, who used to do like all of the comic book covers for Neil Gaiman's Sandman. He's also he directed the movie Mirror Mask. I've always liked Dave McKean's art. He also used to do like a whole bunch of album covers for like industrial bands that I used to listen to back in the day, like Frontline Assembly. Yeah, so his stuff I've always really liked.
Oh, he spooked me out. These are spooky.
Yeah, his stuff is kind of spooky.
Apparently he's done illustrations for Stephen King.
Oh, I did not know that.
Well, it came around.
I'm just learning. I'm excited about learning.
Those are the two that kind of like that immediately jump to mind. Those are probably my big two.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but like my favorite artist is Renee Magritte. I don't know if that's like a basic bitch kind of art opinion. I'm not super well versed in the visual arts, but that's where I land on that one.
I got nothing against Magritte.
It's quality surrealist stuff, very trippy.
I think we'd both be punks if we were like O.C. Escher.
Now that's a basic bitch answer.
Yeah, that's a super basic bitch answer, which is sad because sad.
I mean, he's very talented. It's just like that's like saying your favorite game is Call of Duty. Like, yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
my favorite painter is Caspar David Friedrich, which is also kind of a basic answer. I just like oceans. That gets me. There you go.
Paul Mullen asks, "How's Johnny's facial hair mistake going?"
Oh,
he knows we all love him anyway, right?
Yeah, Operation Horrorbeard. It's going. It's not ready for photos yet. Somebody commented the other day, and I quote, "You look like you listen to a lot of Nirvana," which is not a compliment, I think.
It depends on the time period. I think there was times, and there will be times again where that's complimentary. I don't know where we are.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, you're really into Nirvana. That's a shame. I never got into them. I didn't. It wasn't my jam at the time, and it kind of passed. You were either a part of that movement or you weren't. But like basically a combination of this thing that I've got on my face and the long hair that I'm sporting now. Yeah, I can see that. That I can see how that would be something that you might assume about me.
Fashion is cyclical, so just hold on to it. Eventually it'll come back into style, even if it's not working for you right now.
No, you see, here's the problem, is that beards are in right now. Right? But
so
only
the window is closing.
But only if you can grow a beard.
I guess.
This is what I've got here is not a beard. This is at best an accoutrement. Like you'll see, all right? Like in a couple of weeks or something like that. Like I'm not doing the Movember thing because I just it bothers me, guys who are like, yeah, do Movember, even though I'm not actually raising any money or anything like that. I'm gonna grow a mustache because it's goofy. I'm just like not shaving right now. By the end of November, I just want to look horrible. Just because it's been a long time since I've done that. So it might be a couple of weeks still before you guys see it. But when you do, you're all going to be like, oh yeah, that's awful.
All right, I have another one here from Cyretha. I've heard this is a controversial question. I don't know if you've ever done it before, so I just want to get it out there. Question is, do you sleep with your socks on?
No. But I'm not opposed to it. I'm sure I have, but I don't.
No, I do not sleep with my socks on. But
okay.
that is a thing that I, as a Canadian, accept.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be very weather dependent. I do, and apparently it's controversial. I've come to understand. I've been yelled at before. I just keep tons of blankets. Is the thing. I have like 4 blankets on my bed, so I don't need socks.
One way to I can't remember the science behind this, but apparently it's a thing. One way to fall asleep faster is to have your feet out of the blankets, but the rest of you in it. There is like a real... This is not like an old wives' tale. There is like a real reason why this is helpful. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
That's weird.
But that's the way.
I just do that.
Yeah. It's a thing. It is a thing to be done, and I typically do that.
Okay. Let's see here. Toshiro Kuru, our question guru, asks, playing any mobile games lately? I'm still playing Fire Emblem Heroes, which is perhaps an indictment of who I am as a human being, but I haven't spent any money on it, and I have a lot of really good anime characters with swords. I'm excited about Animal Crossing. That's why, I'll be honest, I asked this question because I want to talk about Animal Crossing. It's coming out this month. Are you guys excited?
You know I'm not.
No.
Although I did enjoy it back when I played video games.
Yeah, Animal Crossing seems like a Leon-ass game. It's just like cute animals talking and having fun, just chilling out.
Austin, Animal Crossing, back during my previous I'm not playing video games anymore stretch of a few years, that was the game that got me back into it. Mm-hmm. So you are right about that. I played Animal Crossing on GameCube, and I was like, this is fun. I like video games again. And I did for many years. And
You're not going to dip in at all? Just download it. It's free. You're just going to hang out with all your good buddies? Pick some fruit?
I feel... I don't know. I feel like... That sounds like it's going to take a lot of my time. I mean,
actually, it has an energy mechanic, so literally at certain points it'll be like, you've played enough. Please stop.
I'm also at, as our audience might know by now, I'm in my latest long stretch of I'm not playing any new games thing right now. So I don't think so.
It's just weird. It's the best year of video game releases probably in the last 10 years or so, and it's like incredible out there right now, and you're missing out, Leon. Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild.
Nuts. And I have not been playing any of them.
I know, me too. It's sad. I don't have any time or money. Johnny, did you have any mobile game thoughts?
Not really. The only time I really play mobile games is when I'm in the bathroom, basically. So that means that I need to be able to get in there and get out in a minute or two, So it's match 3 games. There's a Star Trek game that I kind of play, but it's just it wants too much from me. So I don't really touch it.
It's needy.
I just, I'm not coming down on mobile games as they're not real games or anything like that. They are. The thing is that most free-to-play games are, like you said, have energy systems or engineered to be oh, that's it, that's all you can play, right? And as such, I usually find that I am either not entertained enough by what little they offer you in the time that you spend with them, or I am, and it's oh, sorry, you're done by now. And if I want more from an experience at that point in time, I'm not going to grab a free-to-play mobile game. I'm just going to sit down and be I'm going to play a real video game because it's not going to tell me I have to stop in 15 minutes, and I will just be able to have fun for an hour. So it's weird. My relationship with it is really we're going to meet halfway for 2 minutes because you're just going to distract me. But if I'm ever actually looking to play anything fun, it's not going to be you. Does that make sense? Are you with me? Do you got me?
Cool? I am with you.
Yeah. All right.
So I think we're basically out of time. I don't have any other questions here that jump out to me, but I do have a question for Johnny. This is just from me to Johnny. Have you heard the new St. Vincent album, and is it good?
I have not, but I am ridiculously fascinated by every piece of advertising that she's doing over it. Because her sense of theatrics is just inspiring.
Yeah, she's a lot. She also looks exactly like my animal law professor, and it trips me out.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah, every time I go to class, I'm just all right, so I'm just going to have digital witness stuck in my head for an hour and a half. It's fine. Let's talk about people being mean to cats.
Are you sure they're not the same person? Because for a while
she's so busy.
For a while there, I honestly thought that my ear, nose, and throat specialist might have been Will Sheff from Ockerville River.
Yeah, all favorite. It's rough out there. The economy's bad. All us celebrities are other things too.
Even after making that statement online, Sheff replied to me on Twitter, "Shh, dude, you'll blow my cover." So,
fuck, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's neat. I have something to say right before we go. Earlier this year, Ridley Scott made a movie called All the Money in the World, and the second most important actor in it, at least according to the poster, was Kevin Spacey. And a couple days ago, he said, fuck it, and he's reshooting the whole movie, or at least every scene that Kevin Spacey is in, and replacing him with Christopher Plummer instead.
Holy shit.
And yeah, he has zero patience for this shit. So he's like, no. And the movie is due next month. And he's like, no, it's been in the can for a while, but nope. I don't want this. I don't want him in my movie. So now he's just out, every scene that he's in. And apparently, like I said, he's the second biggest role in the movie after Michelle Williams.
That's dedication.
And yeah, he's had enough, I guess. Good for him.
The budget for that movie must be all the money in the world.
Here's the thing. It's actually not a huge budget movie, but I guess it is now because you have to redo it. Whatever it was, now it's more. So that's cool.
I mean, I'm definitely pro getting sex offenders out of our lives as quickly as possible. My concern is this is a path that's going to lead to every movie ever made being reshot, because I have bad news about Hollywood.
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you can digitally remove people quite like that. It's a little different.
It's but, every movie ever made is just going to be like Sigourney Weaver and a bunch of CGI people. It's just like, sorry, all movies are pretty fucked.
Okay. I mean, I'd watch that.
I would too.
I'd watch Sigourney. Yeah, that's the weird thing. I really would. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. Any thoughts before we go?
There's like so much concrete in my area right now.
How many cats is too many cats? This is a question that came up from Animal Law. What's the line between a cat lover and someone who's hoarding cats and the government needs to...
4.
Oh.
That's pretty low. The law in Hawaii was 15.
Okay. I feel it. I feel like it depends on how many of these are kittens, because like maybe you have like 2 cats and they're in love, and then they had kittens, and then now you have like 2 adult cats and 6 kittens. I don't feel like that's too many. I feel like that's, the circle of life. But if you went out and bought 6 plus 2 cats, which is 8 cats according to my math, I feel like that's a lot. That's different.
Nah, it's 4.
All right, I think that's the end of the show.
It is.
It's like because like 1 is sort of like, oh, you have a cat. 2 is like, I worry that my cat's gonna be lonely. 3 is some wiggle room for weirdo, and then 4 is just like, nah, sorry, you're over the line.
What about the cat to room ratio? What if you live in a gigantic mansion?
Then you should have friends.
I'm just saying, like, all right.
All of this was a trick question. The answer was, don't have cats, get dogs. Got you. You fell into my trap.
I did.
Yeah, but Austin, people are not in positions where they can have dogs.
Yeah.
I am. It's the worst. Maybe that's why I don't want to live forever. Just because there's no dogs here.
Yeah, but Austin, if you did live forever, it would be much easier for you to find that sweet spot where there were dogs.
Yeah. And hopefully the dogs would also live forever, theoretically. Leon's like leaving the room. He's gone. We've lost him. He hates us.
I'm here. I'm here for Immortal Dogs.
Oh, okay, good. You're very busy. I know you have a lot of bad movies to watch.
I do. Yeah. Plus, I have to do my episode.
God, Justice League is going to be very bad, right?
Yep,
it is. Luckily, I'm not going alone. I'm going with Jess and Darren. That we've just decided that we need to do this together.
I read the other day that they want to make sure that it's under 2 hours.
That was a Warner Brothers mandate, and if you made a movie that was supposed that all the plot points needed to be for this 3-hour movie, and then you decided to cut it down to 2 hours, then you missed. Then
here. This is the thing, right? Is that I did not have the problems that I had with Batman v Superman were not necessarily with its length, but with how it decided to use its length. Yeah. Right? We had like a full hour-long fight scene at the end that did not need to be an hour long. I can't understand how they think they're going to be able to like properly introduce the entire Justice League in a 2-hour movie. This was like when they did the original X-Men, right? Why they cut it down to just being like, oh look, here's a movie about Wolverine and Rogue, and there's some other guys in the background. Like, that was the only thing that made that first X-Men movie work, was that they were willing to cut the rest of the team out, mostly.
Yeah.
So I just can't understand how we're gonna see Cyborg and Aquaman for the first time, and then Superman's gonna come back from the dead at some point in time.
Flash.
And
I mean, look at the bright side. In a couple of years, they're gonna have to digitally replace all the actors, so...
Yeah. And the Flash, too.
All
The Flash. They got to introduce the Flash.
Yeah. Well, they'll do that quickly.
Yeah.
Fuck off.